June 25, 1950, North Korean forces invaded South Korea, starting the Korean War. 2 days later, the United Nations passed a resolution urging members to stop the North Korean aggressors, and the U.S. responded.
Korea is a small country, thousands of miles away. But what is happening there is important to every American. On Sunday, June 25th, Communist forces attacked the Republic of Korea. Free nations must be on their guard, more than ever before, against this kind of sneak attack. We are united in detesting communist slavery. We know that the cost of freedom is high, but we are determined to preserve our freedom no matter what the cost.
The United Nations ordered bombing raids on strategic targets in North Korea. Although the UN effort was to be fought by troops and equipment from several different member nations, the United States was given command of the operation. President Truman appointed General Douglas MacArthur chief of UN forces.
Heading for Korea, the first amphibious task force since World War II moves swiftly through the Pacific. Under a British-American air umbrella, the Armada arrives off Pohang and the landing craft go in.
Despite expectations of opposition, the United States 1st Cavalry Division easily established a beachhead. Its first job was to guard Pohang from North Korean troops advancing southward down the eastern coast. Off the shores of North Korea, the Allied fleet bombarded their positions. Although Russian troops were not among those invading South Korea, Truman blamed the Soviet Union for sponsoring communist North Korea.
If the Soviet Union really wants peace, it can prove it, and could have proved it on any day since last June 25th by joining the rest of the United Nations in calling upon the North Koreans to lay down their arms at once.
Giant recruiting rallies were held throughout the country. Each branch of the armed forces encouraged all able-bodied men to join the fight against communism.
Marines, Navy, foot slogger or flyer, every volunteer helps in the urgent task of building up United Nations strength in Korea.
Newly arrived recruits soon discovered the harsh realities of this war as they worked their way to Seoul.
There's no knowing friend from foe. As tanks spearhead the attack in house-to-house fighting, South Koreans patrol captured areas just in case. Wounded prisoners are brought in for treatment before being sent back to base. It's a tough price the Marines pay for a tough job. America has carried most of the weight in this United Nations war.
After liberating South Korea, MacArthur ordered his forces across the 38th parallel in hopes of unifying all of Korea. Unfortunately, this move brought Red China into the war. Over 1 million Chinese troops pushed the UN forces all the way back to the bottom of the Korean peninsula. Trapped behind enemy lines, the battle-worn Marines must wait for supplies to be airdropped to them before they can hope to fight their way out.
During the days, they've hacked out a landing strip, exhausted though they are. They're hungry, too, and thirsty enough to eat snow. By night, they fight off Chinese attacks as the enemy raids from the mountains.
Eventually, the American and Allied forces would fight their way back to the 38th parallel. On July 27, 1953, both sides agreed to an armistice. The Korean War took a very high toll, particularly on the Koreans and the Chinese. America also paid a high price, losing over 54,000 soldiers. In all, more than 1 million people lost their lives to the Korean War. But the political situation between North and South Korea ended up exactly the same as it had been the day before June 25, 1950, when the Korean War began. Korea was once again divided in half at the 38th parallel. November 1st, 1952, the United States exploded the first hydrogen bomb.
Aboard a Navy ship steaming toward Enewetak Atoll in November 1952, a handful of men share a secret which can shape the fate of the world. On a tiny island named Illujalab, the Atomic Energy Commission and the Defense Department are preparing to explode the world's most fearsome weapon, the first hydrogen bomb.
The bomb, which was nicknamed Mike, was under the observation of the four groups performing the test: the Army, Navy, Air Force, and the scientific contingent.
A weather briefing is held as H-hour nears, for weather conditions can make or break the test shot.
Any chance of showers?
Not within the next 48 hours over the entire marshals.
How about cloud cover?
A few cumulus move in, but if we go off on schedule, nothing to bother the operation.
In less than a minute, the first hydrogen bomb ever set off on Earth will explode before your very eyes.
Minus 15 seconds. Minus 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, teaser.
Watch the shockwave as it rolls toward the flagship.
This film was edited to exclude any classified information and was released 2 years after the bomb was exploded.
Helicopters whirling away to study the test island must get in and out quickly. Radioactive dust will begin showering the atoll in an hour.
From the helicopters, observers could clearly see that the island was completely flattened. There was nothing left except what seemed to be a deep crater and the dark blue water. The bomb produced a fireball more than 3 miles across. Compared to New York's skyline, this meant that with the Empire State Building as the 0 point, the fireball would extend from Washington Square to Central Park, searing 1/4 of the island of Manhattan in an instant.
The tremendous upsurge of air from the detonation rapidly pushes up the Mike cloud. Again, nothing of this height and width has ever before been witnessed. If the picture is stopped at this point in the cloud's growth, the height of the cloud is approximately 40,000 feet. This means that 32 Empire State Buildings at 1,250 feet each could be piled one on top of the other before they would reach the cloud's altitude at this time, roughly 2 minutes after zero. Some 10 minutes later, the cloud approaches its maximum. The mushroom portion of the deadly radioactive air mass has pushed up to around 10 miles and spreads out along the base of the stratosphere to the width of about 100 miles. The stem itself is snaking upward to a height of about 25 miles.
The bomb, which created a crater approximately a mile in diameter, was hundreds of times more destructive than the atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Everything within a radius of 3 miles was completely annihilated. Severe to moderate damage was recorded out to 7 miles. The lateral destructive effects were the greatest achieved by a single explosive device. Light damage extended as far as 10 miles.
With this mushroom cloud, mankind enters the hydrogen bomb age, an era in which every one of us must share the fateful decision to create or destroy.
The hydrogen bomb's awesome power to destroy truly shook the world on November 1st, 1952.